The Great Steppe, millenniums of events, hundreds of nomadic tribes and people. They lived, worked, made discoveries, conquered large tracts of lands and left us some mysteries. To learn more about it, watch a project called Enigma of the Great Steppe.
In September 1833, the famous Russian poet Alexander Pushkin arrived in Uralsk from the Nizhny-Ozersk fortress. And although the main purpose of his visit was to collect materials about the Pugachev's uprising, Pushkin recorded local legends and myths. So his attention was drawn to the love story of Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu. There's a version that after listening to this epic, the poet asked to write it down in Russian translation. Later, after the death of Alexander Sergeyevich, Zhukovsky found a 5-page manuscript written by the unknown author, where one version of the steppe love story was noted. As it is known, Pushkin often used folk stories of different people in his works, adapting them to the Russian sound words. Some suggest that he planned to write his own poem based on the well-known Kazakh epic. Unfortunately, he could not do this, as he was mortally wounded by the Athens on the duel challenge. It is a favorite story which is known all over the steppe, from Orenburg to Zaysan. It's a masterpiece of the Kazakh epic. It is a story about the beautiful lady Bayan Sulu, who fell in love with the poor shepherd Kozy-Korpesh. She could not take the death of her beloved person, committed suicide on his grave. Plot is international and widely spread, but no one nation made this story such an outstanding point in its epic like the Kazakhs. Do you know that Pushkin was interested in folk legends and fairy tales? Let's remember his work, Tale of Tsar Sultan, which was also written in Oriental motifs. And of course this story, which was told by someone from the local people, representatives of the Kazakh intellectuals, attracted his great interest. But what was so interesting in this Kazakh legend that could attract the Russian great classic? How did the famous epic of the two lovers, that has been existing for many centuries, appear? In the old days, there were two friends who wanted to become relatives and promised each other that their children would get married in the future. Soon a son was born to the one named Kozy-Korpesh, and the daughter with the name Sulu Bayan was born to the second friend. Kozy-Korpesh's father died. Sulu Bayan's father became wealthy and did not want his daughter to marry a poor man, thus he migrated to distant countries. Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu is one of the few examples of Kazakh oral folk art, where the main storyline is not a heroic motif but a love story. There are more than 20 versions of this epic, and the most famous is the version told by Akin Janak. The original performance of the love story of Kozy and Bayan could last at least 3 days. The ancient legend says once upon a time two friends, Saribai and Karabai, lived in the Great Steppe. When they learned that their wives were pregnant, they engaged their unborn children and swore to marry their children in the future. And here we find the first reference to the ancient laws of the nomads. Here we see the ancient customs, which aims not only to match boy and girl. They say if two baby boys are born, let them be friends for the rest of their lives. Close friends we call tamirs. If two baby girls are born, let them marry sons of one family. And if baby boy and baby girl are born, then we will engage them. Here we see that the epic reflects folk customs and people's mentality. We see this on the example of the epic about Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu. Everyone thinks that Ije Kabil is a custom of matchmaking that is only the engagement of the boy and girl. In fact, as I said, it's not so. Unfortunately, one of the friends, Saribai, was not destined to see the birth of his child. During the hunting, he killed the red deer female and calf, which has always been considered a terrible sin among the steppe people. As punishment for this sin, he died and did not see the birth of his son, who was given the name of Kozy-Korpesh. time passed and Karabay changed his plan for life. He violated his oath and promised to marry his daughter Bayan to the local hero, Kodar, who once rescued his livestock from extinction.
Естественно, Карабай в то время это считалось зазорным выдавать.
Of course, Karabay did not want his daughter to marry Kozy,
И клятва
because at that time it was considered shameful to marry the only daughter to the orphan. A breach of oath and a love triangle. It's a social poem.
сюжетной линии.
The first storyline is about love and the second is about social problems. Kozy-Korpesh, who lost his father, could not claim to be a husband for Bayan. Mukhtar Omarkhanovich Owezov, in his article, says that such lyric poems, epic about love, dastans, exist in all European folk arts. And he compares this epic with epics about Tahir Jukhra and Alpamus, where the bride is also waiting her brave hero. And at the same time, Mukhtar Owezov says that the epic Kozy-Korpesh is not the same like epic Layla Majnun. The storyline is only about loyalty to feelings. In Kozy-Korpesh epic, we can see the aspect of social injustice. It is a breach of promise given by man, which separated the loving hearts. However, the bonds of oath were stronger with the mercantile interest of Bayan's father. Kozy-Korpesh found out that there is a lady engaged to him, and Kodar was the guy who was standing between the lovers. In this love triangle, Kozy-Korpesh was killed by Kodar. Bayan, saddened by the loss of her beloved one, decided to get revenge on the murderer and used an elaborate plan. She promised to marry Kodar if he dug a well with spring water for her. Kodar agreed and started digging. As Kodar dug deeper, Bayan offered him to hold her long braids so that he could get out of the well. It was an insidious catch of the lady looking for revenge. She waited for the right moment and suddenly cut her braids, leaving Kodar to die at the bottom of the well. Thus, Kozy was avenged. Reviewing this fragment of the epic, domestic folklorists note the hidden meaning. Why did Bayan do that? For centuries, hair has had a sacred significance for nomads, especially the braid of the lady. Bayan preferred this decision. She cut her braid not to punish Kodar, who would be punished in any case. But she showed the fact that she did not need the braid, which was not touched by her beloved. Then she decided if she lived without Kozy, she simply preferred to live without this braid. It is a sign of self-sacrifice. She broke the connection in this world to be with Kozy in the world beyond. Kodar was punished. He knew that if a woman refuses, she cuts her braid herself, destroys her own happiness, thus she punishes him. Secondly, she wanted him to know what price she paid for such treachery. For men, it is the worst thing. Can we consider the epic of Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan as a purely Kazakh work of art? When did this legend appear, and is it based on a true story? Since the epic was only in oral form for a long time, it is impossible to determine the exact date of its creation, as well as to reveal the author. Some scholars believe that the legend of two lovers who were engaged before their birth was created in the 13th to 14th centuries. However, the version stating that this story has more ancient origin is much preferable. Most probably the epic was originated in the early Middle Ages. The evidence of it is the fact that many Turkic-speaking peoples have poems with a similar plot and name. For example, the Bashkirs call it Kozy-Korpesh Minyen Mayan Sulu. The Tatars of Barabinsk, Kozy-Korpesh. The Altai people, Kozy-Yerkesh. This means that the basis of the legend was formed even before the Turks settled on the territory of the Eurasian continent.
Сюжет этого эпоса Kozy-Korpesh Bayan Sulu был очень древний.
The plot of the epic Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu is a very ancient one. It appeared in the 5th to 6th centuries AD. and many Turkic people knew this plot.
Многим тюркским народам. И когда вот эти древнетюркские племена
When the ancient Turkic tribes, having passed the long years of their formation, divided and formed separate nations, every nation composed their own legend based on this plot.
и образовали отдельные нации, то каждый народ на этот сюжет слагал свои произведения. Например, у алтайцев вот эпос.
For example, the Altayan epic has a heroic character. In the Kazakh interpretation, it is a love story. The Altai people created the image of Kozy as a hero and defender.
Героя, защитника, там
Foreign invaders are also mentioned in this epic and so on. In our version, we do not have such a storyline. We have a poem about two lovers.
чисто поэма о влюбленных. И вот
With the fact that the angry will of the father becomes an obstacle in the life of lovers, the Kazakh epic can be considered as one of world masterpieces that glorifies the love of young people.
Kozy-Korpesh вписывается в ряд мировых шедевров, воспевающих любовь молодых людей.
It is interesting that every nation added its own subtext to the epic about the two lovers. Not all nations describe it as pure love saga. Most often, the character of the subtext depended on the political situation that was established at the time of the final formation of the text of the epic. For example, the Kazakh version gained its well-known form in the 16th century, the most peaceful period of our history.
Kozy-Korpesh, вот алтайский вариант.
Kozy-Korpesh is the Altai variant where the main hero is Kozy. To be more precise, his historical feats. But in our Dastan Bayan acts, the main hero of it. After the death of Kozy, she becomes a socially active character of our version.
Активная героиня.
But if the story of Kozy and Bayan exists in several nations, then where did it appear first? Where did this epic originate from, and can we find the prototypes of its two main characters? There is a very mysterious building located 7 kilometers to the southeast of the modern village of Tarulula in the Ayaguz district of the East Kazakhstan region. According to people's rumor, the bodies of the legendary lovers whose names were immortalized in this ancient epic are buried exactly under this building. In front of the entrance of the mausoleum, 4 sculptures were installed in pairs. These sculptures portrayed Kozy-Korpesh, Bayan Sulu, her younger sister and sister-in-law. Unfortunately, they have not survived to this day.
Во-первых, это единственный мавзолей в северо-восточном.
Firstly, it is the only mausoleum in the northeast and in general in the eastern Kazakhstan. The layout of the building is square. The width of the monument is 7 by 7. In height, the first researchers wrote that it is 9 times taller than a human. It's about 16 meters.
Исследователи писали, что 9 человеческого роста. Примерно это где-то 16 метров.
Unfortunately, the upper part of the mausoleum was destroyed approximately in the 1760s. The artillery shell destroyed the upper part.
50-е годы. Там с артиллерийским снарядом.
The first visual research of this mausoleum was arranged by the Kazakh scientist Shokan Shigisovich Valikhanov in 1856.
Это был 1856 год. Он описывал.
He described this building. He made pencil sketches of this monument. There were 4 stone statues.
Даже внутри показывает, что было 4 каменных изваяния.
Until now, scientists do not have an exact answer to the question about the age of this mausoleum. However, most of researchers believe that it was built in the early 9th century AD. That is, in the times of the Kimagh Khanate, which existed on the territory of Kazakhstan and southern Siberia from the 8th to the 11th century. The indirect connection of the story of the two lovers with the Kimagh Khanate can be found in the epic itself. So according to one of the versions, after the death of Saribai, Tailak B sent 11 messengers to all parts of the world. The figure 11 had a sacred significance for the Kimaghs, whose state included 11 ulus, regions, and 11 cities. There's a version that parents of Kozy and Bayan were not only rich people, but powerful rulers. They were buried in accordance with their social status. Later, a big mausoleum was built on their grave. But these are just versions. During the excavation works in the mausoleum in East Kazakhstan, researchers did not find remains of a human. So whom this mysterious mausoleum was built for?
Значит, это было не мавзолей, это поминальное место. Такими сыновьями.
So it was not a mausoleum, it's a memorial place. Such monuments exist in the east, especially in Mongolia, in Siberia. Kultigen monuments, sculptures of men and women in Tuva.
Скульптуры мужчин и женщины. Потом в Туве там их 3 или 4.
There are 3 or 4 of such monuments. They're not called a mausoleum, they're called a memorial place. Most probably, the monument of the Turkic time was already built, and the epic was created based on this monument, Kozy-Korpesh, Bayan, Sulu.
По этим памятникам там Kozy-Korpesh, Bayan, Sulu, слово Kozy.
The word Kozy-Korpesh has a Turkic Iranian origin. Bayan is originated from the word Bayanos, the god of fertility.
Как говорится, Bayanos есть такое слово бог плодородия.
However, there is an assumption that the plot of the famous poem was originated long before Turkification of nomads. In the 18th century, in the Altai Mountains, to the east of the Irtish River, a unique finding was discovered. It was a golden belt. It depicts an elderly man holding the reins of 2 horses, a sitting lady holding the body of the young Jigit and stroking his head. According to researchers of scientists, this epic golden image was created in the 4th to the 3rd centuries BC. These illustrations are similar to the findings of the Scythian burial mounds discovered in the 1960s in the Pazyryk Valley of the East Kazakhstan region. Alkay Margulan believes these illustrations show the plot of the poem Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu. This finding gives ground to assume that the legendary love saga was born in the time of the Saka people. Another interesting detail in the epic Kozy-Korpesh is described as the golden-haired man Altin Aydar-Li. It is known the early nomads who inhabited Kazakhstan had Europid elements. However, archaeologists have a different opinion on this matter.
Айдар, это обычно ставит детям до...
Usually children till age of 7 or 13 have Aydar Shash, tuft of hair, and there were golden hairpins on their heads.
Были вот их волосах.
Therefore, they call Altin Aydar-Li. Nowadays, some children also have Aydar Shash. This is to protect from the evil eye.
Айдар существовал и даже в данное время тоже ставит Айдар. Это чтобы не сглазить.
But if the mausoleum is empty, then why do people continue believing the famous lovers were buried under this building? What came first, an epic or a mausoleum? The researches of this building were arranged by ethnographer Nikolai Abramov in the second half of the 19th century. For the first time. Later, several other scientists tried to understand the mystery of the memorial place. They could not find anything. Can we assume that this creation of ancient architects was always empty? Or was it plundered before it attracted the attention of researchers? If we consider the version about the noble origin of Kozy and Bayan, it is quite conceivable. Throughout history, nomads buried noble people with various luxury items. For example, Kozy's golden hairpin, which was not taken off his hair after his sudden death. The indirect confirmation of the hypotheses that prototypes of famous lovers existed can be found in the text of this epic, which contains many topomas that have survived to this day. A classic of the Kazakh literature, Mukhtar Ovezov was the first person who noticed this.
Мухтар Марханович опять пишет о том, что есть места недалеко от Аягуза, Домбрала, Моншахты. Это название мест.
Mukhtar Omarkhanovich writes that there are places near Ayaguz called Dombre Ali, Manshakti.
Не забылось вот это вот, то, что они сватовство возобновить.
The names of these places correspond to the storyline of the poem. When Saribai's son and Karabai's daughter were teenagers, Saribai sent his representative to the Aul village, where Karabai lived, to remind about the matchmaking, to remind that Kozy was growing up. In response, Bayan sent the dombra, beads, and other items for her lover through this representative. When this man was on his way back, he was cruelly murdered. because at that time Karabai already decided to marry Bayan to brave Kodar. Kodar also came from a noble and wealthy family, and the fact that he was nearby confirmed that Karabai needed him more. And on the way from Ayaguz to Pavlodar, there's a place called Dombrali, a place where Dombra, sent by Bayan to Korpesh, was left. Manshakti is the place where the beads were dropped.
Баян для Коза, мой шахта, то есть там, где вот он уронил ее бусы, потому что он был вероломно убит.
In addition, the text of the epic states that Saribai and Karabai met on the bank of the river Olinti. This river still has the name Olinti, and the well which Bayan asked Kodar to dig turned into the lake Tansik. This lake also exists to this day, and the remarkable thing about this lake is that it does not have tributaries, which means it is filled only with groundwater. According to legend, Bayan Sulu's father, Karabai, traveled from Ayaguz to Tyumen every year, making long layovers in the mountains. Bayan especially liked the mountains of Kazakh. There were a lot of black herons with beautiful feathers. She sewed a beautiful headdress for herself and decorated it with feathers. Therefore, the name of the mountains is Karkarali, in translation, the Black Heron Mountains. Karabai used to spend the longest layovers at a cozy oasis, which was picturesque mountainous area in the middle of the steppe. Later, this place was named after Bayan Aul.
Ну и Мухтар Умарханович настаивает, что действительно топонимика, то, что
Well, Mukhtar Markhanovich states that the toponymus and the location of the grave, the mausoleum of Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu on the territory of Kazakhstan, is not accidental. Here we are talking about representatives of the tribe of Bagan Ali Naimans. People say that the Naimans are people who could not manage to save Bayan and Kozy. I think that this is not a coincidence. If you know, in Moscow there was a scientist orientalist, Militinsky. He wrote about the origin of the epic of the territory of Central Asia. He is one of my teachers. He wrote about the lyric epic novel, the canonical text of the famous novel Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu, Jibek. He says that these two texts were the primary reason why the Kazakh novel, already classical, prosaic, quickly spread. Because on the Kazakh land we had such folk legends. They were retold, people sung these poems. Moreover, the poem Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu was not just sung as a song. There were proses which explained the events.
Конечно, любое фольклорное произведение вначале было создано каким-то известным акином.
Of course, any folklore work was first created by a famous akin. This story, for example, existed among the people. In times of prosperity, during a quiet and safe life, a poet connected these popular legends and composed a song. And this song was spread among people. Another akin added or removed something, made the song complicated. This is how folklore works are created. Of course, the name of the first akin who composed this song was forgotten, as it was composed many centuries ago. In folklore, we can speak only of those who had this work in their repertoire, that is, who told the story. Or he added something to the story, poem, jir, or fairy tale that existed earlier. This is the reason of several versions of one legend.
Что-то туда добавил, внес какие-то свои инновации, и таким образом вот возникают варианты.
Indeed, every nation has legends about loving hearts which cannot belong together due to some reasons. And none of these legends is likely to have so many mysteries as the poem of Kozy-Korpesh and Bayan Sulu. Without having written literature, the Kazakh people managed not only to preserve this beautiful and at the same time tragic story, but also to spread it all over the great steppe. The empathy felt with the heroes of the epic was so strong that some akins even came up with an alternative ending, and young lovers reunite in the world beyond, or even resurrect in our world. It was not coincidence that this story attracted the attention of Pushkin. The famous Russian classic was well acquainted with such European masterpieces as Tristan and Isolde, or Romeo and Juliet. but he included the handwritten version of the legend which he heard on Kazakh land in his personal archive. And who knows how the great Russian poet would develop with this manuscript. He did not die in that duel challenge.